Hi there, CoronaTV viewers. I'm Johnny Damon.
You're my bobblehead Joel today, just nod up and down if you agree. Welcome to the show, Mitch. Joel, how are you?
Happy birthday to you.
And just look at those washboard abs.
I know, right? Oh yeah, this is the fittest I've ever been in my life, you know.
Happy birthday from Johnny Damon.
First of all, let's just do the elbow bump. Well, hello everybody. Happy Friday. It is good to see you. It is good to be seen by you. It is the end of another week with the world spinning out of control, but us trying to get the world back into control. So I hope you are well. I am wearing, I would go closer to the camera, but I know that when I do that, what happens is often it makes the whole green screen go wonky. But if you look carefully, you will notice that I'm wearing the famous poop emoji shirt. So look carefully, zoom in a little bit. I'm happy to be wearing the shirt because I can actually fit into it again after 2, 3, 4, 5, however many years. So I'm celebrating with a big smiley poop. I also decided to play that intro because it has a bunch of marketers on it, and it also says Johnny Damon. And baseball went back yesterday. We had our opening day of the shortened season. The Yankees beat the Nationals. Let's go Yankees. Sorry all you Red Sox fans out there, but it just happened. You know, really interesting to see how different categories and different sports are handling this return in terms of social distancing, in terms of kneeling, in terms of cutouts in the crowd. These are indeed fascinating times. Chip Griffin says, we're just happy you're wearing any shirt. Yeah, because today is not National Naked Day. And I did take my shirt off. Charlene Lee was absolutely horrified at what she saw. But I tell you what it is today. It is National Tequila Day. It's not just National Tequila Day. It's actually also National Cousins Day. And I got to be honest with you, you know, today I had to decide between National Cousins Day and National Tequila Day. Was I going to go with one? It was a hard choice, but eventually I went with both, and I'll tell you why. Because during the best and the worst times with family, and sometimes living with family, there's nothing like a good tequila with cousins or because of them. So I'm sure you have those same cousins in your life and in your family. So we celebrate them through the best and the worst of times. Bob Farnham says, call Jay Bear, it's National Tequila Day. Have you got 25 minutes for Jay to tell you about his tequila? I don't think so. And Chip says, are you going to make me pull out my Red Sox paraphernalia again? It was Chip's birthday yesterday. I was going to sing happy birthday to him, but not as badly as Johnny Damon. So I'm going to do it now. Happy birthday to you. No, I mean, that's how Johnny Damon would say, happy birthday, Chip. And thank you for being a part of the show and the after show. It's really been awesome. Awesome. And David Libby is here. Happy Friday, great shirt, congrats for the weight loss. I guess that's what you, or maybe you just congratulating me because I'm stupid enough to wear a poop emoji shirt on a streaming show. I don't know. It's all good. It's all good either way. Well, anyway, let's get back into it. Today, I'm excited because the marketer's marketer is here, David Berkowitz, the other one, founder of the Serial Marketer Consultancy and Serial Marketers Community. We're going to talk to him about community. We're going to talk to him about marketing and marketers. It's going to be an awesome conversation. And look at that smile. He's an awesome, awesome guy. I'm thrilled to be connecting with him. David rounds out a hell of a week. I mean, I learned so much about selling from Ian Altman, Tom Morris, the world's happiest public philosopher. We spoke about life. We spoke about optimism. We spoke about people who just suck the foam from the top of a beer. We heard about Bob Pearson's inspirations from his father to Michael Dell to Mark Benioff. Jane Green today, author, 18 times New York Times best-selling author Jane Green spoke about being good enough and confidence and security and insecurity. And today, we end on a high with David Berkowitz. As I've been mentioning this whole week, if you actually want to really get a sense as to like my take on the week's guest and who's coming up next week, please subscribe to my newsletter, josephjaffe.com/subscribe. Or if you're in North America, text the word CoronaTV to 66866. And as many of you know who have been watching the show, next week we have Jamal Mashburn on Monday, Colin Shaw, Andrew Davis, Jonathan Sackett, and Charles Green. Charles wrote a book on trust. We're going to be talking about trust at the end of the week. So very quickly, happy birthday to a bunch of people, to Jenny Vinerup here in Westport, another Westportian friend of mine, Jeff Wallman. I was with him when he ran his first half marathon. I was with him when he ran his first marathon. We did it together, and then he just left me in the dust as he became a chronic marathoner. And I just stuck to 4 miles and 5 miles, but it's okay. It's okay. And then, of course, happy LinkedIn birthday to all of my LinkedIn friends and contacts as well. Well, it's time for the final seated soliloquy of the week. And, because I'm talking to Mr. Berkowitz about marketing and about serial marketing and serial marketers, I wanted to talk a little bit about this idea about, the evolution or devolution of marketing, and ask the question, can marketing be saved? Which is the least trusted profession? Do you guys know? I mean, according to a 2019 Gallup poll, it's car salesmen, obviously, right? Next up or down, if you get my drift, is, no surprises here, members of Congress and senators. Then we have insurance salespeople. Liberty, 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 liberty. And finally, ta-da, advertising practitioners. Yep, the company we keep are with snake oil and used car salespeople and politicians, which is just swell. To be fair, marketers or marketing aren't exactly advertising people advertising, but maybe they are when you factor in the percentage of budget spent on advertising, acquisition, and keeping it real, gaslighting, professional communications gaslighting. I have always rejected these pejorative judgments being slapped on our profession, my profession. I am a proud card-carrying member of the marketing club. I am a chronic marketer. I am a serial marketer. I believe marketing can be a force for good, a force for change, a force for growth. I believe that marketing is everything and everything is marketing. I also have to acknowledge that most marketers I come into contact with make me want to take a shower immediately afterwards. Not with them, of course. But there are some good actors left in the business. Last night, I attended a virtual gala on Zoom, sponsored by the Chief Marketing Officer of the World Poker Tour, David Gedder. I drank wine with some inspirational people, yes, many of whom were marketers, in various breakout rooms where we discussed topics like philanthropy, doing good, being good. I think that ethics and integrity are in short supply these days, across the board in general, but specifically and certainly in marketing as well. I feel that if marketing wants to reclaim its usurped seat at the decision-making table in the boardroom, then it is us that have to step up, grow a spine or a pair, lead by example, be the light from within that shows the way forward. We can do this. Let's do this. Let's do it. Just do it. And that's not a hashtag or tagline. It's a way of life at the end of the day. Well, I always say that I'm interested in hearing what my guest has to say. We're going to discuss this in the show, but most importantly, and more importantly, it's time to bring him on, Mr. David Berkowitz, the other David Berkowitz. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Joseph. Really fun being here. I'm loving these comments too. It's like a family reunion.
Yeah, let's see. Well, that's there's Lana, and she said, What do you mean you're so sorry you missed it? You're on it now.
You're on the air.
David is my favorite serial marketer. Or maybe what you're saying is my favorite serial marketer, Joseph Jaffe. I don't know. It's one of the two. It could go either way, right?
Yeah. Well, where's it's missing a comma or something.
I mean, maybe it was just meant to be a little bit ambiguous.
We need a serial comma with the serial marketer.
So now I have to do a serial comma, a serial grammar professor. Now, so in many of these interviews, David, I've gone and I've Googled the person's name. And in some cases, what happens is there are no mentions of the actual person's name because there is another person more famous or infamous. Like, for example, Chris Penn, right? The late Chris Penn is all over. But you actually, and I'm going to show this for a second, because you actually feature on page number 1 in the middle of the other David Berkowitz. So with this beautiful smiling face, so you did it. You forced your way onto the homepage. How did you do that?
Well, one of my favorite mix-ups was that someone randomly DM'd me on Twitter, and he said, "Did you know that if you Google David Berkowitz and you see that what do they call the custom info card that comes up, like that?" That snippet about the person from Wikipedia and all the main info. So they have all this stuff with Son of Sam that linked to my Twitter account. So even Google wasn't really sure where I fit in there. They thought I was that my account that says marketing this and that all over it was actually the Son of Sam. And by the way, then I sure as hell wasn't reporting this. And then like a month or two later, it disappeared, and then it even came back. So Google was really convinced for a while that maybe we're just like, maybe it was a different haircut. Maybe I was balding a little bit at some point and had some
all these commas coming back to haunt us. And just a few shout outs. Philip Robinson is watching. It's live. You mean like the monster? It's alive.
Is he working with you? I loved all of his advocacy. Thank you, Philip. But
is he working with you? What do you mean? Was he working with me? Philip was a client and he is a friend. And despite the fact he supports Southampton and I support Spurs, we still continue to talk. There's no reason why we wouldn't. We're not enemies. David says bald men are sexy. Well, maybe not the other one. Maybe not balding men as well. And Jeff Minsky's here. He said, hello to my fellow media villager.
Loved getting to recap some of the Jack Myers conversations this summer. He really is. I mean, as far as like interview of the year, I mean, you might be here, but Jack is way up there. I mean, he's like on that Jaffe scale. I mean,
which reminds me, actually, I have to invite him on the show. So, Jack, if you're watching, or if anybody knows how to contact Jack Myers,
I think Jeff does. I mean,
yeah, which of course I do too. But Minsky, tell Myers I'd like him on. I'm. That's going to be a great interview too. Not as good as this one, but close.
But I mean, are you ready to be reverse interviewed there? Because Jack's going to turn the tables on you.
Well, I've got an interesting comment coming in from. Oh, look at this! This is amazing. My Twitch is blowing up right now. Want to become famous? Buy followers, primes, and begin. Well, thank you, Q Platypus. My Twitch really. By the way, it's very interesting. It's interesting, David, because yesterday I actually got my first Twitch comment. And the reality is I have no place, or I have no business being on Twitch or streaming on Twitch. It's not like, there's a chess match in progress, but I actually got someone to tune in and enjoyed the show. So, why not?
So you're not like watching people play Fortnite on Twitch or anything? That's not your idea of a good time?
I mean, listen, my idea of a good time is listening to you, David.
Wow.
So
I'm going to just steal all of these as like just quotes, and this is my entire deck.
sound bites taken out of context. Well, I feel like today could be an episode of Corona Cocktails, except there are no cocktails. But I feel, it's interesting when I look back. I don't have anything. I've got water as well. Steve says I do have a place on Twitch.
Can we get into your opening remarks for a second, though? Because, there's something to be said for tequila bringing cousins together in unintentional ways. So, I think that the two actually belong together on the same day.
Tell me a story. Do you know of a story of where tequila has brought cousins together? Are we cousins? we might have been. We're related at some point back in the old day.
All I know is that on the family tree, not too far back, all of my relatives have the same last name. So it's so yeah. There was a while where you didn't even need tequila for that.
That sounds like what's his name? Oh my God, Jeff Foxworthy. You're a redneck when your family tree doesn't fork.
Yeah.
Or you're a redneck when you go to family reunions to pick up chicks. I'm just quoting Jeff Foxworthy before the PC police come and get me. I think I'll just stop now. So David, niceties aside, what I was going to say is I feel like there's different energy that comes from different interviews and different guests at different times. A Friday guest, for example, it almost feels like it's an opportunity to let down our proverbial hair and celebrate the wins of the week and commiserate on the losses, or at least on the things that went a little pear-shaped. And some cases, there's an opportunity to actually even laugh at them or laugh at ourselves, because the reality is that there's a lot of stuff going on right now that makes us question what we do for a living. And other times, I think feel proud of what we do and realize that we have a role to play. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, like just seeing some of the people in this virtual room right now, it's like there's a lot of you bring some of the best people together, and however this is, and they're like pretty much everyone except maybe M9AA4BF whatever is someone I'd like trust with my kid, and I like my kid. So yeah, like there's a lot of good from all this, even if I will go on Twitter after this and be totally miserable for the next 3 hours.
Well, let's not do that, because I have a few of your tweets coming up later as well. But here's what I actually wanted to do. Normally with someone, with a guest, I would promote their newsletter, or I'd let them promote their newsletter and their Slack channel and their books towards the end. But with you, I'm doing the opposite. I'm starting off with it because I really feel like you've been a bit of a pioneer right now in terms of helping pave the way for marketers, for aspiring marketers, budding marketers, rising marketers, frustrated marketers as well. And you do it with a dry, not a dry gin, but a dry sense of humor as well. And you've just put out a book. And so I said, we literally are going to go backwards here for a second. And the book is called Berkowitzs Marketing English. Berkowitzs Marketing English. And the subhead actually says, a quaint compendium of meaning for the modern marketer. How very English of you, Berkey. So talk a little bit about this, why you decided to put this out, and talk a little bit about how you're marketing it as well, because I think that warrants a conversation.
Yeah. Well, look, I got inspiration by stealing from the best, as a lot of great marketers do, and so have you read Dreyer's English, by Ben Dreyer?
I haven't. I've had Dreyer's ice cream, but I haven't read that.
This is different. It's just as filling, and so wrote this book that was a style guide, but with personality and opinion, and it was provocative and just fun to read. I couldn't wait to finished reading cover to cover, and it was annotated. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, it'd be a lot of fun to have something like this for the marketing industry, and just try to explain marketing in a way that's helpful, but also that doesn't shy away from having an opinion. Like, look, I'm a big fan of a lot of my friends at the IAB, but if you read their glossary, if you read an A&A glossary, something like that, it's very matter of fact. Here is what direct marketing is, and this is, now you can quote this, and it's very similar to what you see in the first line of Wikipedia, even if it's written by extremely smart, talented people. But so I'm like, well, let's turn this on its head, and let's look into meaning, and the first one I wrote was on impressions. And it's funny because it was like, wait a second, impressions rarely make an impression on anyone. And a dictionary or style guide, or like, they'd never say that. Like, you can't say that. And what the hell? It's just me. I could say whatever I want. And so then it was just kind of snowballed from there over the next several months. And I have to give so much credit to the illustrator, Isabella Flores de Moura. I mean, she's this young artist I found in Brazil through Upwork, and she was so talented and so passionate and just over delivered constantly over the course of this project that it made me try to write better, because she had so much inspiration in each image she created. Like, I wanted the words to be able to live up to these illustrations.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing that you just said, because I used one of these solutions as well, and I'm going to say 99 Designs, but it might have been their competitor, so I apologize if I got the wrong brand, because I was looking at both of them. But they designed the cover of my book, and I wanted to. You know me, you know that I always want to prove the power of community. And specifically the wisdom of crowds, and just really recognizing all this creativity that exists all around the world, not in a large corporation, but the freelancers, the entrepreneurs, etc. And for me, the cover of my book is the first impression of the book. It's what most people see of the book. That's how important it is. But you just said something so interesting, which is the actual art and the actual illustrations made you want to be a better writer. And that's an amazing concept, how something that is typically the afterthought actually became the muse or the inspiration.
Yeah, I was surprised by this process, and I've worked with others on like a bit of PowerPoint illustrating or a couple things like this, but this was so involved, and she put so much of herself into it, and but it's very real, because it's like, wait, if she's giving this much of herself, I want to make sure. It's almost like the healthiest form of competition there is too, and it's like, let's see if this can really justify this, and we can and look, that then clearly then there'd be more hooks for her to latch onto, and look, I don't know if it's the best thing ever written. It might be better illustrated than it is written. I'd be totally happy with that, but it got to this place where it was something that I think we could be proud of. I was able to order some hard copies of the book and actually ship them to Brazil, and so I think it's like slowly making its way by like Ewok and alpaca and whatever it takes to go and trek something across the world these days. But yeah, it's getting there, and it's like, and it's amazing, because it's like, if I stumbled on her LinkedIn profile, or sorry, I could have easily overlooked just who she is and what she could bring to it. And it was also a good reminder to not dismiss someone, not just based on where they are, because I've worked with people all over the world who are incredible, but also like, the one of the things I love these days, and you talk about the greater good, and it's like, I didn't care about the years of experience. It didn't matter. It's just like let's just hash out some ideas together. If you get what I'm doing, I don't care if you're 90 or if you're 9. Then let's just go and do this thing.
I've actually I was listening to I was watching a live video show like mine on the web, and I won't go into names, specifically because I forgot. Otherwise, I would have. But this was an agency person that was really, criticizing or bad-mouthing the Upworks and the 99 Designs of the world, specifically because from a pricing standpoint, how they are commoditizing, if you will, or at least bringing down the ticket sale or the ticket price of creative work, of spec work, project work, etc. And I found myself clearly disagreeing with them because I think they missed the point, and I think they had certainly a self-serving reason to say that. I wonder what your thought is about, whether it's the Elonces, the Upworks, these different models out there, and specifically how they, do they cannibalize or do they challenge the incumbents to be better?
So I'll tell you a quick story. When I was at MRY, I was running marketing over there at the Publicis agency, and I was giving this talk actually for the inbound conference, HubSpot's inbound conference, and so thanks to Laura Fitton, and I was actually telling a story, a story about marketing, and I did find an illustrator through there, and I was actually even originally thinking, do I try to ask people on my team, because MRY still had and still has some of the best creatives I've ever worked with, and they're brilliant. But look, like if I went through the normal process, I realized this would be like a $20,000 expenditure. I instead went the route of not telling anyone about this, not even expensing this thing, because I don't want my CFO asking too many questions. How come I'm not using Publicis talent for this kind of thing? And look, like I could just do this because it was like a fun little side project within the agency and to market the agency. But like there was no way. Now the quality of work would have been a million times better in that case of going with the MRY team, no doubt. Just there wasn't that scope for it. So I think that there are a lot of these things like Berkowitzs Marketing English that this was a labor of love. I'm not expecting to go get rich off of this thing. So I didn't have a huge budget for it. So I'm not calling my most brilliant illustrator friends that I'm connected to already on LinkedIn and Facebook. So I think that there's a lot more of these kinds of things that can happen by anyone and everyone, and it's this rise of everyone. And but look, some people are getting hurt by it. Absolutely, like there are definitely some people who I think are in that middling area who like can kind of coast for a while because they're some of the best around, and when someone doesn't have access to the broader network, doesn't have, and can only get the local blacksmith who's down the street, then yeah, then if you're not exceptional, and it's so hard to be exceptional among 8 billion or so people, then yeah, look, just as some have upside, there is downside for a lot of people, and there are a lot of people who have to just retool what they're doing and figure things out along the way, and ideally figure out how to work with this system instead of against it.
So now I want to call out two of the entries in the book, and I think it also speaks to how you market and how you've marketed the book. And as I said, this is backwards today, because instead of promoting this stuff at the end, we kind of use it because you really are eating your dog food. So here is the entry on newsletter, a recurring publication that, when distributed by email, is often synonymous with spam. Corporate newsletters not only tend to go out to people who never subscribed and sometimes never heard of the sender, but they're filled with content that no one but the sender would ever possibly care about. See also spam. Now talk a little bit about how you've actually marketed the ebook, and then what you see on the right for people watching is a snapshot of the website, right? Serial Marketer website, but also some of the articles and the real value that comes through the newsletter.
Yeah, this is one where I can at least say I'm not guilty of the crime I'm calling out in Berkowitz Marketing English, and my newsletter was the best marketing vehicle for Berkowitz Marketing English, because now I've with more than 1,000 people getting this newsletter every week, and at least a good chunk of them even opening and sometimes reading the thing. Thank you. Then I had this distribution channel. And for me, that was, by the way, a very big shift to go from having a blog since like 04, 05 to then spending a lot of my time doing bylines for the ad trades out there, to then starting in 2006 and doubling down on this in 2016 and doubling down in 2018 and saying, I really want to focus on developing my own audience, which will be smaller. I'll miss some of the people who are not aware of me to begin with, and that's most people, but at least I have ways to directly engage with this audience. And so it was a big shift in my own mindset to say, like, a tighter audience that I can really do whatever I want with. And sometimes I'll do weird things like song lyrics in my newsletter or things like that I'd never submit to an ad trade. And just say, like, I'm the biggest differentiator about the newsletter, for better or worse, is it's mine, right? So you and I might see a lot of the same links, but your perspective and my perspective, like, we're each going to come at it in our own way, and same with every other person. So it's like if you like my spin on things, great. If not, don't subscribe or unsubscribe. Then all the better.
But now a big part of if you go back to your book. And this was, I was getting a couple of entries, looking for a few entries. And then I was like, could you send me a couple, because I didn't have the book yet. And then I realized, wait a second, I can get the book for free, the ebook, by subscribing to the newsletter. That is a damn fine quid pro quo, my president. And so talk a little bit about, the tactic is clear, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, and there's a value exchange. And of course, everybody knows that they could punch in a fake email address. So I didn't have to confirm. And I didn't. I gave you my legitimate email address, because I was like, how could I not? We both said this, right? How could we not be subscribed to each other's newsletters, which we are now? So there was nothing, subversive or opaque, in a sense. But I want you to talk a little bit about this idea of, why would you give away the book for free versus actually sell it for 99 cents, as an ebook, or, there is a hardcover version as well. I think it's important to understand, especially, why you would have gone that route.
Yeah, well, and look, the hardcover version is on the Barnes & Noble site, because it was the easiest to work with, and I'm selling it essentially at cost. I think I rounded up by $1 just because it was a more even number. But with that, look, like, I'm a big fan of getting ideas out into the world and then having these as conversation starters. I want people to come back to me and tell me I'm wrong about what's on page 33, or like, this entry should absolutely be in some other version of the book, and use this. Look, it's marketing. I for the pittance that I'd make from those who would even go that barrier of, also, look, like, for so much of the value in the book, then if I was trying to sell it for something, like, if I'm trying to sell this for $5, I think it's worth, personally, I do think it's worth a lot more than $5, let alone 99 cents. And so like, to try to get it in some price point that, like, maybe someone will pay for, but then they need to value it highly enough. No, I'd rather people just think about, like, how, if they can actually go and read this and process it and have it start these ideas, then that to me is a lot more exciting. And by the way, when I first shared this with my newsletter audience, and I shared them the direct link to skip the registration thing, because these are my readers, like, I want to make this as easy as possible, and said, by the way, please, if you like it, send people to berkey.co. And I registered a shortened URL just for this, and had a MailChimp landing page and set that all up. But I was like, look, here's the direct, like, skip the registration wall. I don't want to make people go through hurdles that also just don't make any sense. And I can't stand that as a consumer. Also, I'm like, why am I watching an ad to view your movie trailer? It's an ad.
I know, but it's always been so. I was just going to go ask you another question, but that is true, right? A movie trailer is an ad, but it's an ad that people will watch and want to watch. And it's always been, I've always said that, which is, why do we not make our advertising? What does it take to make our advertising like a trailer for a movie? Because it's a great lesson to us that it can be done if done correctly. And I know the response is, yeah, but it's a movie trailer. We sell spam, cans of spam. But anything can be done with a bit of creativity, right?
Indeed.
Okay, so here's my question to you.
Yeah.
My question to you is let's say, from my mouth to God's ears, but I'm going to give you a few numbers. 100,000 units or downloads are registered. That means now 100,000 people are subscribed to your newsletter. But it also means, and I'll peg a price at 99 cents, that you've just foregone $100,000 in revenue. Worth it to get 100,000 people on your blog? On your newsletter?
Absolutely. And look, because if you're not paying for something, I love the cliche that if you're not paying for media, then you are the product. And look, members of my newsletter list, I don't run ads in there that much. Members of my free Slack community, like they're products too, right? Like they're an audience that at some point I can monetize, I can market to, I can do so on a one-on-one basis. It's a lot easier for me to pick up the phone and call someone who is a subscriber of my newsletter or a member of my community. So it can shorten some lead times and be helpful in all kinds of ways. And look, like, if my list were to grow exponentially from this, then I get more calls from advertisers, and there are far more ways that it could be worth a lot more than that smaller share of the 100,000 who might still really love to pay a dollar or a few dollars for the book. It's like, short-term versus long-term gain. And I always, often to a fault, but just about always err on the side of long-term gain. That, look, I don't always realize that long-term value. I don't always get some that. And if my tombstone says, like, this is a guy who left money on the table, then I'm okay with that at my funeral.
Well, we're going to play the perfect. It's the perfect time to play the game, which is who said this. So your quiz today is who said this. Marketing takes a day to learn and a lifetime to master. Wow,
this is was this Frank Oz? Because
this one's actually not so esoteric. It's okay. If I gave you a clue, one of the foremost professor emeritus of in that realm wrote the book Consumer Behavior that I learned marketing from.
Is this Kotler?
Yeah, this is Professor Philip Kotler.
Okay.
Who I've had the pleasure of interviewing and meeting a couple times, trying to get him to come on the show as well. But I think that speaks to this idea of the long game, right? The long game versus the short-term win or the quick fix or the ROI, the instant gratification, right? At the end of the day. Well, I don't know if Philip actually is saying that after the fact on a delay or whatever, but yes, it is Kotler. Okay, I do want to just go back and just play with you a little bit more because I'm feeling malicious. What about 100,000 downloads, but the cost is $5? So $500,000 in revenue during these tough times, or 100,000 subscribers. And I will caveat it, these 100,000 subscribers are going to stay with you. None of them are going to unsubscribe. My wife would be pretty pissed if I didn't actually just take the money and run. So this is like a version of Money or the Bucks, right? It's like what would you do? But it's interesting. I mean, you did not hesitate at $100,000 for 100,000. And the reality is maybe the number is somewhere in the middle, but it does show you the power of owning your audience and relationship, right? And it just manifested so beautifully just now. But I agree with you. I mean, it's just an interesting thing. Thanks for playing along. So Laura Gassner Otting, who was one of my guests a few weeks ago, she said, I'd go for the 100,000 subscribers every time. That's strong real estate. Well, Laura, what would you do if it was $10 for those 100,000? $1 million? No, it's interesting, but it was a good game. Thank you for playing along. All right, we're going to go to one more, David. And I'm backing this up with one of your Twitter quotes. Marketing influencer, well written, by the way. A so-called influential person who is known for expertise in marketing, the ability to have an impact on the thoughts and actions of other marketers. We would think, right? An influencer marketing campaign can center around a marketing influencer. Now here comes the snark. As soon as you're at an industry event and someone introduces himself, it's usually a he, as a marketing influencer, that would be a good time to remember your car is double parked, even if you took mass transit there. Well said, my friend.
Thank you.
And I saw one of your tweets, right? I'm just bummed we don't have clout anymore to tag us as Jeep influencers. Or what about Ford Fiesta?
Love that. Love that. I think Scott Monty also might have been in that thread where we were.
Yeah, he was
talking about Jeeps with thanks to Jeremiah Ouyang. So who's actually one of the real influencers out there, who you shouldn't make some excuse about having a car when you don't, if you see Jeremiah.
No, well, I mean, with him, it's like it's a Winnebago these days, or an RV, or one of those what do you call those Gulf? What do you call Airstreams?
But also like
different things.
You know, when clout was a big deal, so I was working for 360i big deal in our circle. Okay, like, yeah, this isn't like, you know, change the world, you know, coronavirus vaccine, big deal. But when clout was a big deal in our little micro world, I remember looking at this, and like I was looking at my clout score, which was like maybe not quite Chris Brogan at the time, but pretty good, pretty high up there. And then I looked at the clout score of my CEO, then it was Brian Wiener, or my boss Sarah Hofstetter. And I'm looking at, you know, and their clout scores are tiny. Now, when I saw how they're influencing the industry, right? How they're influencing clients, and how like you get Sarah in a room in front of a client, and they will be like just, you know, their pens are down, their phones are down, they're hanging on her every word, and anyone who knows a damn thing or two is actually listening to her and you know, following up on some of those actions there, and it was just such a moment like yes, you know, I can have more follow on Twitter and more engagement wherever on, you know, on GoWalla and all my favorite little hobbies at the time, but I'm still a Swarm diehard, but like also just trying to appreciate where influence really comes from. Like, thought leadership isn't who writes the longest white paper or the prettiest one. It's like who's actually leading, right? Like Jeremiah, I've followed time and time again, like you, Mr. Jaffe, and creating agencies and virtual spaces and just crowdsourcing elements of your very traditional output of a book, and just constantly reworking things. Like I've followed you into worlds like this, and I know that many others, and including your listeners, and are just constantly doing the same, and just keeping an eye on what you're doing and downloading your frameworks from your book site, which I do refer to sometimes. So like that right there is going to be a far bigger deal than like, okay, so yeah, what's your reach?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what you were referring to is quality versus quantity. And I always said, right, with impressions, not even before impressions, before the spray and pray, right, before television, the GRP At the end of the day, all it was a measure of potential views, not actual engagement, not actual behavior or actual interactivity or actual response. And we've still struggled ultimately when we think about, marketing's inability to evolve is to let go of quantity and focus on quality. It doesn't mean you can't get both, but the place to begin is always quality first, quantity second.
Well, what's so ludicrous also is that like innovation in marketing is coming up with this whole idea of viewed impressions, right? Like as if this is something that marketers should pay more for and publishers should sell, because most of the other shit that they're peddling, is like, we don't know what the hell this is, right? So even this whole thing, that the whole point of an impression is that it is seen to the point where it can ideally impress someone, right? Like we have to come up with a whole new category for things that were probably actually seen, not even like had any impact, right? Like this is innovation, like just mind-blowingly archaic and like and also it just shows that we're setting the bar so low for it's like we're just trying to grade ourselves on the kind of curve that you might see by like patting yourself on the back for naming an elephant, so this is like we're on that same like, yes, we got the last 5 questions right on this on this cognitive test. That's like marketing in a nutshell.
Camera, person, woman, TV. I don't know if I clearly cognitively, I think I've lost it a long time ago. Well, David, I want to, I told you we'd be going backwards, and we're gonna end on the perfect place, which is to talk about this community that you've built. But before, I had to just do one more thing with you, because I think it talks to quality, quantity. It talks to your beautiful illustrator and design. Recently, you commented and you said, can't believe the Redskins dropped their stadium sponsor. After all that, the Washington football team will now play in stadium. It has been fascinating to look at what has happened. I mean, I don't even have words to describe Washington football team. And I don't know, like a part of me kind of is happy about it and likes it. And a part of me is just, what the, like, did they just give up? Could they not have moved quickly? And here's the backdrop for getting your commentary on this, which is going back to 99 Designs. They went and held a contest. And this was the winner, not only coming up with the name, but a logo, the branding, etc., the Washington Warriors, and then the honorable mention, which we'd heard about, right, which is the Washington Red Tails as well. So what are we waiting for? Is the Washington franchise waiting to enlist the services of Peter Ornell so that they can spend $2 million and take 6 months, or just go to 99 Designs, and pay someone $500 and you're done. You've moved on. You've moved forward. It's insane.
And what also pissed me off is like I'm just full on like New York teams. I'm not one of those New Yorkers who like has some favorite like Dallas or LA team or anything like that. I would buy that Red Tails merch in a second, right? I will be one of the people who crashing that website. And the winner's pretty damn good too. I might just be a little less just emotionally like fired up about this. But I want the Red Tails Lego set, with I can build my Red Tails. I just load my house up with stuff, even if I'm still going to root for the Giants. So yeah, I mean, it's so reminiscent, like you're referencing the Gap redesign, and it's just like is this that stunt? Was this intentional? Do they basically need to go back to FedEx again and say, okay, like FedEx, you wanted us to change our team name. You said you might maybe like drop drop your sponsorship if we don't pick a less racist team name. Like and FedEx also, what's kind of funny is that they have one of the most they have one of the most brilliant logos in the business, right? Like they help set that standard for that, that hidden iconography. People love to show the FedEx logo in those, in those, like, did you see this? And in all those, like, really sad marketing trivia nights. And yet, like this is what they have to work with. So I kind of.
There's a really interesting little angle that I think you might have inadvertently or advertently opened up, which is why wouldn't FedEx have actually sponsored the logo redesign and the rebranding and use the crowd and maybe even go so far, extreme of extremes, to enlist the services of constituencies or minorities or groups that have been underinvested in, underappreciated, and oftentimes neglected. And maybe even if we didn't go that far, this could have been done already. I wonder how long it's going to take them to actually change.
And it was done already, right? Like you're showing, it was done. Like I didn't see all the results, but I'd imagine like most of the top 50 were pretty good, and so yeah.
So this is, I mean, again, a beautiful common theme today, which is not something that we even chatted about, that we would kind of go down this, but we discuss community. But I think what's really been interesting is to see how community works at the individual level and even at the lowest level, in terms of, instead of top down, bottom up, because that is the power, right, of grassroots community. So you established, you took your brand, Serial Marketers, and you extended it, and you've created this community on Slack. And I think, there aren't going to be many people I interview that I think have demonstrated, whether it's how they've marketed a book, how they've built a newsletter, and how they've fostered community, that you really are eating your own dog food. So I would love, in the time that we have left, for you to talk a little bit about this Slack community, maybe something that has surprised you, some of the things that you have planned for it, and how people can join it.
Yeah, thanks. And I got to give you credit, because you were, as usual, a guinea pig, right? I wanted to explore what it's like to have guest interviews in there, and you were the first video chat we did, and so thank you for like taking a chance when.
You're welcome. I'll do it again if you'll have me.
All right. Well, we've got some new formats and new ways for you to take part, so I can commit to that right here. I can, so you're on for that, and look, like I started this because when I renamed things, I've got to credit Aaron Strout initially, who, for that same Inbound conference, very influential in my life. He introduced me on HubSpot's blog as Serial Marketer, Not Killer, back around 2015, I believe. And so when I just wanted to start doing some of my own consulting in 2016, I was like, this was also the name where, for me, it was just a reminder to myself that I'm not taking things too seriously. And I will see that remind. And so, I don't talk about this much, but the second choice I had was, my second favorite option was Those Idiots. So who worked on that plan for you? Oh, Those Idiots. Like, I thought that was kind of fun too. But the personal choice won out. But even when I started, I'm like, well, on one hand, a lot of people identify themselves as serial marketers, but no one uses that term. On the other hand, it might be a little too personal for me, and the last thing I wanted was a vanity project. But I was wrapping up things at Story Hunter in 2018. I put up a post on LinkedIn. It was almost 2 years ago to the day, and I said, look, I have some idea. I think Slack's the right thing, way for people to learn from each other. Here, I even had the motto set: learn, try, share. Some idea for a university crest that's right there above my head. And said like, look, I think we'll share jobs, maybe discuss some news, tech recommendations, maybe a book club, and who wants to join? And I set up a Google form, and it's the same Google form that's there now. Well, now it's a little more elaborate, but goes to the same place on at serialmarketers.net. And said, look, like anyone wants to join, great. And so like 100 people requested access right away. I was like, oh crap, I actually need to launch this thing now, and set up the Slack account and like finalize things with the designer on Fiverr who designed that logo out of India. Another wonderful story, Bang Bend on Fiverr. Happy to share the link with your audience. He's amazing. And so then and so I launched the thing, and maybe like 50 of those 100 actually went through and joined, and just look, like it just kept growing very organically. I love when there are people who I know very well who are like, I didn't even know about the Slack community. Like, again, good. Like I'm leaving something on the table. I'm not just shilling my own stuff day in, day out. But there are things like this week was a great one. I was having a discussion with someone in the community who I actually had an unusually astute critique about some other members' post, and I'm clearly not getting into that here, but it made for a very interesting conversation. And she said, oh, by the way, I just made 2 hires from within your community. And one of them was the person who invited me to the community, and I wouldn't have seen his interest in this role for it. And another one is a teacher, a professor who one of his students is now working with me on this thing. So that, and like, this was an afterthought, right? And so now it's like, fast forward to now, this is the thing that just gets me out of bed every day. And I know that like the more I put into it, then the more it just creates opportunities. And I see people like Philip who are just really excited about it. And it's one, when people ask like, what can I do for you? After I have a call with them, I'm usually saying, well, my really easy ask is just send good people to this community, because yes, I benefit from getting in contact with them, and they're probably going to reap immediate value if they're kind of in this mindset or psychographic. So it's been a real treat for me to keep growing this, and lots of plans to keep doing so.
Well, if you want to join, become a serial marketer, not a chronic marketer. I'm both. Chronic, it's like an illness, but also, and I loved hearing the story of the origins of the brand of Serial Marketer, which is awesome. All you got to do is go to serialmarketers.net, which is pretty much the same thing that you would do if you wanted to also subscribe to the newsletter. It's an opportunity, of course, to get Berkowitz Marketing English for free. But at the end of the day, it's about a two-way relationship. It is about, the idea of owning audience, but it's not really just owning audience. It's also, it works two ways, right? It's not you owning the audience. It's the audience also owning you and owning that access, or having that access as well. By the way, I love the story of those idiots. I would have gone with those dorks, Inc. And another great campaign, or another flame out from those dorks, Inc. You are most certainly not a dork, Mr. Berkowitz. I really appreciate your time coming in today. And of course, it's not done yet. You haven't gotten rid of me yet. We're going to go to the Zoom after show right now. All you have to do is go to bit.ly/CoronaTV after show if you'd like to hang out with us for a while longer. David, final word is yours, my friend. Just
that, this is a great audience. I love the experience, and it's just fun getting to catch up with you in public.
Yeah, it was great. And, during a quarantine, the last time I think we met was at some bar in Midtown, which was awesome. Let's do it again sometime.
Deal. I'm ready.
All right. Everyone have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see some of you either on Facebook or in Zoom, and I will be back on Monday with Jamal Mashburn. Take care.